Corne, thanks for joining us. What did you think about this initiative when you first heard about it? It sounds a little bit ridiculous, hey?
Yeah, I was a bit concerned about the fact that how they're going to get the soil into Europe and into England. It's quite difficult to do that in Australia and New Zealand. You can't take any soil, scratch it off the bottom of your boots. But it's a great initiative. That home ground advantage campaign really is taking a lot of momentum now, and doing this is something really out of the ordinary and something that I think that the guys will feel very special every time they step out of the changing room.
Corne, did you have any pre-match rituals that involved touching the ground or kissing the ground or anything like that?
No, not at all. I wasn't very. When it came to that sort of stuff, I had so much to think about. A lot of guys had a lot of superstitions in the changing room, wearing red underpants for the game and doing funny things. But I was very relaxed about that. But I had a lot of other things to think about as the captain, and think for other players and about the referee and all the different kinds of things. So no rituals for me.
Okay, as a former captain, I'm going to ask you to weigh in on the current captaincy debate. Obviously, the regular captain, JdV, is probably going to play off the bench, or fingers crossed that he's ready. Who do you think would be the right man for the job?
Well, he's the right man for the job because he's been picked, and I think that's probably the key. Is that I always say that a rugby team is a little bit like your family. You can't pick your family, but once you have them, and you don't always have to agree with them. But when they go into battle, you have to support them, and that's what we have to do as South Africans. Jean has been through an amazing time. To come back from that injury and still be able to get ready for the World Cup was a phenomenal feat just by itself, just getting back on the field. Whether he's 100% right for the World Cup, we won't know until we actually see him playing on the field. But knowing him and knowing the character and knowing his physical abilities, I have no doubt that he'll be able to lead from the front and play most of the games and actually build that momentum going in, because there's a couple of easier games to warm up, and by the time the quarterfinals come around, hopefully all the players with injury clouds hanging over them will be sorted out.
Do you think that John's captaincy ability is that invaluable that you can include him at the expense of other players? I mean, we've seen the experimentation in the midfield.
Yeah, there are guys that you can take risks with, and I think JdV is definitely one of those guys. A guy who always leads from the front and puts his heart and soul into the game, but also a guy that's accepted by all the players. And even though we like to think that provincialism is something of the past, it's always there, and it's always been. Our history has determined that we're very factional in terms of the different unions, and John is the one guy that I think can move freely between all the different guys and really unite that whole team. So in my mind, I think he's a great selection, and I think he's got a major role to play at the World Cup.
And last question, Corne, I'm sure you're aware there's been a lot of sort of negative press in the last couple of weeks regarding the selection of the squad, transformation, etc. What do you think that will filter into the mindsets of the players, or what do you make of all of this?
Yeah, there's always issues around transformation around every World Cup, and whether that be cricket or rugby, and rightfully so, we have to try and right the wrongs of the past, which is really nearly impossible to do. But we have to look at that, and Heineke has done within the parameters that have been set to him. He's picked a phenomenal squad, and the guys that are in there, as I said earlier, we have to support them. That's the only one thing that we can do. Helping, trying to criticise them is not going to help. Trying to stop them from going in a stupid court case is not going to help. It's really now a matter of saying, guys, that's the squad. It's the most transformative squad that's been chosen in the history of South African rugby to represent South Africa at a World Cup, and let's support them 100%. Every single player there is a very talented player. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the squad. Rudy Page is going to probably make his debut at the World Cup, which isn't ideal. But no doubt in my mind that he's got the talent. He turned the Bulls season around last year. He's a phenomenal player. All he lacks is experience, and now he's going to get that opportunity to the World Cup.